How's it going, everybody? So this is my next journal entry. Do you guys ever, for those of you that create content and stuff, do you guys ever have like days like today was not a great day for me? A lot of weird personal shit, and then you find yourself later trying to focus on, hey, I've got to make a video, or I've got to, work on some stuff or whatever. And do you ever find yourself where you're like, man, I don't really feel it. I'm not in the zone or whatever, but deep down, you're like, God damn it, I still got to get this done. It's a weird place to be. And I understand it's a self-inflicted kind of thing, because we, at least I anyway, will end up in a zone where, maybe every day I don't feel creative. And to a large degree, that's exactly what this series was supposed to do, was be the counteraction to feeling down about just life or whatever. In case you guys are wondering what I'm doing, I'm fixing up some old lightsabers of mine. Had these when I was younger, and weird story for you guys. If you collect anything plastic or anything else like that, there's this stuff called 303 aerospace protectant. This is not pimping it. I'm just saying, hey, from my own personal experience, this hydrates a lot of old dried plastic. You can use it on your vehicles and stuff. When I first started using it on my truck, I was like, man, this is really working. Like, it kept the dash from fading and did all those other things. Has a little tiny bit of an oily residue, but unlike Armor All and a lot of that other stuff, it doesn't dry it out. It doesn't have the same alcohol contents or anything like that. And it's pretty safe to use on electronic devices like this. I'm spraying it onto a rag and just working with it that way. Sometimes, and I've alluded to this in earlier videos, sometimes, when I feel this way, I'll power through this, and I just have to hope that, hey, this is going to be okay, and I'll be able to, enjoy what I've created or what I put out, without a lot of heavy editing or whatever. But I know, like, I had a bunch of pages here that I was right in the middle of working on for my graphic novel, and just wasn't feeling it. Sometimes I get into a bad mood, and I had a real bad day today, and that's okay. That's okay. If you guys know what I'm talking about, it's okay to have a bad day. It really is. And for a long time, I didn't think that was permissible, right? I grew up with a father that, it was okay for him to have bad days, but we couldn't. If he was in a good mood and we were in a bad mood, well, why were you in a bad mood when you're bringing down my mood? Didn't work vice versa, though. And so that was a big issue. That was a big problem for a long time, and it created a lot of issues for me where I think it fed the people pleaser aspect of myself, and it made me wonder what was wrong with me for a long time. Okay, that one looks pretty good. It's a wonder these things. There's a little bit of a stress fracture right there, just a tiny one. I don't think you guys can see it or not, but no, it's not really showing up on there, but it's right here. You can tell that there's a weakness in the plastic. The good thing is I don't plan on using these to whack, anybody on the head or anything, but, like all toys of this era, they start to get these stress points, and, I'm lucky these have survived as long as they have. I say these, I've got two more I'll work on while I'm doing this here. And, oh boy, I often find it that, even though I'm trying my best to stay level-headed, there are times when you just have to let things out. I watched a video actually earlier. It had Guillermo del Toro in it. And I would post part of the video on here, but I've been getting some strikes on some of the content on here. I keep forgetting because I don't normally post copywritten stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's a strike against it. People in Angola or Japan can't watch this or something. I'm like, well, hell, okay, that didn't work. So, but nonetheless, the point is that the video he was in, he did an interesting thing, which I thought was interesting during the interview. He talked about how the worst thing that we invented was nice. I thought, what the hell, man? Like, I look up to him very much. Guillermo del Toro is a huge hero of mine. I may not like all the subject matter of his works, right? I genuinely believe the man doesn't like cats. But I do enjoy a lot of his other stuff quite a bit. And I just noticed this is loose. I have never seen that happen before, but I think it's missing a screw in there somewhere. That, or it just broke at some point. I'm not sure what's going on here. It's okay. I'll figure that out later. Right now, I'm just trying to clean these things off. I'll jump back to Guillermo del Toro in just a second. So these have a lot of fine dust from where they were stored for a long time. I'm just trying to get the initial stuff off. Since there's so many electronics in it and so much stuff going on, I don't feel really good about, I wouldn't want to put these in soapy water or anything else like that. I'd want to make sure I was getting them as cleaned up as possible, as safely as possible. Because I know that they still work, and I got to check them to make sure there's no batteries in them or anything else like that, and clean out those chambers as well too. This is Vader's, if you guys don't recognize it. And the hilt seems like it's loose. It's very loose right there. It shouldn't be doing that. I think it's actually supposed to be lined up like this, is where that guard is supposed to be, but something clearly broke at some point. It's still a miracle. There's like a lot of the things, like the instructions are still on there. Really happy about that. Well, when I got these, I'm a little older and I messed around with them and everything else like that, but this one may very well be my brother's, which is really wild. And I know, like, I have another one of these too that is in much, much better condition. It's up here in my Darth Maul collection. I don't know if you, yeah, right there. That's this little thing right here. That's the, on the wall, that's my Darth Maul lightsaber. Same concept as these things like this, where the blade extends out. Anyway, getting back and on track with what I was talking about with Mr. Guillermo del Toro, he was talking about how nice was the worst thing we could have invented. Because as he was going into it, he said, he talks about how, like, it's almost, and the way I took it and the way he was implying is that we almost use it as a safety measure, right? Like, as opposed to being truthful or honest or real about ourselves, we use the implicative action of being nice. And to a large degree, some people would say, well, that would be being politically incorrect, or that would be whatever if you weren't nice. I don't think that's the case. I try to be nice to people that I genuinely like, that I genuinely get along or respect, because I feel that that's how I feel. For a long time, I would often mask a lot of how I felt, and I just played nice along the way. I would eat crow. All my resolution, everything would just go out the fucking window, and I would just kiss ass. And after a while, I got tired of that. My cat is probably going to knock over a bunch of shit. So if you hear a large crash on the other side of the studio, I was cleaning out some areas over there, and Radar has been all about, well, there you go. He's been all about exploring the new areas that opened up after I started cleaning. I guess one good thing about this video was it shamed me into getting the rest of my studio finished up. I'm trying to be really careful. I'm also being a little irresponsible spraying this close to my artwork, but yeah, this is the last one. I want to say at some point in time, with the whole nice thing, I remember that, when you're growing up, you're told, like, treat others as you'd want to be treated, turn the other cheek, name the metaphor, name the saying, name the meme, if you will. And this one's Luke's, or Anakin's. I actually don't know much about this design because it never dawned on me that this was the lightsaber. But here's the weird part. They marketed this as Luke's, and I just noticed right now I'm missing the back power panel on this. I believe this one was my brother's. What's weird is I know for a fact that this is not the shape or size, I believe. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm even more unsure of this. This was, I believe, sold as Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, but it's got a blue blade on it. And if you look at the design, if you know anything about the history of Star Wars, you know that certain hilts and swords will follow the design cues of, a Jedi Master and his Padawan. So I'm trying to figure out where this one comes from. I mean, I'm just a Google search away from figuring that out anyway. But so when I worked jobs, getting back to the whole nice thing. Sorry, when I'm doing this, I'll jump around on subject matter. When I was, doing that sort of stuff during work, I would often end up in circumstances where I was like, oh, I don't want to offend anyone. And I'd hide behind a lot of things. I wouldn't speak up, wouldn't speak out. And then suddenly I started breaking out of that mold, which it was weird because I would sometimes speak out about the wrong things at the wrong time. And it was totally inconvenient for bosses or people in charge. I very much always did speak my mind on things that were inappropriate or that I felt strongly about. And some of it may be because, at least according to my therapists and stuff, and, accepting the fact that I'm on the spectrum. And I think just a bit, I don't know if I've ever told this story. Well, I know I certainly haven't in this series, but I had a teacher that helped me overcome a lot of that because I was obsessed with this idea of I have to be nice to everyone and everything. And she was very much somebody who was worried that I always stared down and I never made eye contact with anyone. And I suffered to talk with people and stuff. I was very single-minded, but I had a flair for the dramatic, and I was pretty good at improv and reading stuff and performing. A lot of stuff like that, right? And I never really pursued it because I was scared. So now I'm doing stuff like this. I have been for a few years. YouTube was a godsend for me. Probably one of the reasons why I won't abandon the platform. I know a lot of people hate it, but it's a nice kind of low-key thing for me. And considering I'm not trying to make a living off of it yet, eventually it'd be nice, but I think the whole thing is you have to get to 1,000. Yeah, I think it's 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of view time on your videos before they can even begin to acknowledge you as being able to be included in the Creators Fund or whatever it's called. Or, no, being able to monetize your videos. But again, like other people have said, those goalposts keep moving, and so what do you do at that point? So, nonetheless, I thought to myself, about the whole nice thing, it's something that even today I struggle with. Like a lot of times I'll go along with something that I don't want to do because, which is kind of some of the problems I had today. Why do cats, when they run away, they just kick out everything? There's like a rug at the door that gets kicked all over the fucking place. Cats. So I always end up in this circumstance where, I don't know how to find a balance in between that. And I tell myself, well, you still got to get your work done. You still got to get your job done. You still got to do other things and enjoy your time and stuff like that. And, and make it and enjoy your life. And today, I was in a foul mood this morning. And then I ended up going back to bed and I lost all the daylight. I lost a good 6-7 hours of production today. Why? Because I felt shitty. I felt depressed. And because sometimes I refuse to be honest with myself on how I feel about certain things. When that happens, then I'm left in a conundrum where it becomes too easy to trick myself into thinking I'm okay with what I'm gonna do. Whether maybe it's going to a meeting. I've had some problems with that recently. Like even some areas around here they've got open door policies on their meetings and stuff. And I've thought to myself, I don't know if I want to go. I don't know if that's something I really want to get involved with because I'd have to be nice, right? And it's not that I would want to go in there. Like my favorite fucking meme on the internet, I'll post it here right now, is this one. This is fucking hilarious. Just that is very much how I feel about a lot of things, and it's probably from years and years and years of just dealing with bullshit and myself mainly. I'm not even blaming anyone else. I'm blaming myself. And it makes it really weird. It's a really weird place to be mentally. Because, I do have beef with a lot of shit. But there's also a point where you have to just, kind of calm down and not be so angry about stuff. But it goes right back. It plays right back into that whole same fucking thing of am I trying too hard to be nice? Anyway. Okay, so all three of those are done. That's awesome. Great, great, great. Cool. So one of the other things that I thought about with the whole like getting geared up and trying to work through things, like I see this a lot. The recent social media group that I belong to, the network, Stimulus. Even I see it more on Twitter, larger base, and occasionally I see it creep up like on Facebook and stuff. Basically, all the social media will have people talking about that. It's interesting to see how I think there's times whenever we would want to tell ourselves like, I'm going to be straight out, I'm going to be honest. If I don't like something somebody says, I'm either going to go tell them to screw off or just whatever, right? But there's also a point where I wonder if I just am not tired of life sometimes. And I don't want that to sound like, ooh, fuck, he's going to off himself. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm tired of life's beat, its pattern sometimes. Like, you know, as I've talked about in earlier videos, the whole thing of, after a while, you just get kind of worn down seeing the same shit over and over again. And you get tired of thinking, wow, I'm stuck in this zone. And to that point, I mean, there was a comment left earlier on one of my Facebook pages by a buddy of mine who I agree with what he said for the most part, probably about 99% of it. I posted this video about a farmer. Now he was in the UK, and for those of you that are the grocery buyers or the cooks in your family, you know that the prices of eggs have been going up. Now, if you watch the news, there's a widespread aspect saying, well, it's because of the avian flu. But there are farmers that are taking this information into their own hands and going out there and saying, actually, no, it's not even fucking about that. What it is about is the fact that, like, nobody's listening to us. We are literally trying to tell people that the industry doesn't want to pay us with any profit for the eggs we're creating. So instead, the eggs have become more scarce, so the price is going up, and they're flipping the blame back on the farmers. That's horrible. And it's not the first time that sort of shit happens. Now, I'll be the first person to be like, I don't like corporations. I don't like how much they've permeated my life, things like that. And this is this is going to seem a little weird because I did say I would never bring in politics, and I'm not. I'm really not. But I want to clear the air on this. I believe that sometimes people think that I am extremely liberal. I am not, but nor am I conservative. I align myself, as I've said before, somewhere in the centrist aspect, but I very much have beliefs that go outside of that. And I don't want to put a name on that because I don't really like the labels or the aspects of that. But I do think that when things like that happen, the whole play nice aspect is really emblematic of the societies we live in. Like, don't think about it too much, just get your work done. Yeah, but we'll deal with that later. It's always later. It's always this, it's always that. It doesn't matter what the issue is. It could be something as bad as a school shooting, and, well, don't bring it up now, we'll talk about it later. But when's later come? Or, you know, why can't we talk about the fact that the gas companies literally control the price of gas, but we'll blame a politician. It doesn't even matter which one, we'll blame one of them. And we can see this on a widespread spectrum, how we're being nullified a lot of ways. Now, stepping away from that discussion, because this is not the time or place, and nor do I have the knowledge to go that deep into it. So I'll readily admit that. When you're already struggling on a personal level to extrapolate how you feel and deal with other people, and then there's the social construct aspect of, I have to be nice all the time, or I should be nice at all costs and all efforts. I think that sometimes that can lead us astray and not let us be our true selves. Now, when I say that, that also means that your true self is absolutely capable of being deconstructed, attacked, vilified, everything. Just because you have freedom of speech doesn't mean that you have freedom to say what the fuck you want and not have a repercussion for it. I very much believe that. I don't care who you are or what side, myself included. And I think there can almost be a blinding mess to it. You get people that are so angry that there is either something like political correctness or whatever, that they want to smash against it, right? Like waves crashing against a wall. And eventually that wall will collapse, which is, what I would imagine they would hope, because they want to be able to say, well, I want to be able to say this, this, and this, and this. But a lot of times, the people that are the most hungry to say the worst things are usually the most fragile and easy to anger. Likewise, on the other side, you'll have people far beyond anything that I've experienced that maybe have been ostracized, emotionally or physically injured in ways over the course of their lives, or dealt with trauma that I can't even begin to fathom, that instead want better days for everybody. They just want acceptance. Unfortunately, it can also go a little further, and you get people that are like, I'm going to annihilate the hell out of anyone that I don't agree with, anyone that I think is diametrically opposed to everything I believe in, and I'm going to wipe them out. And there's the saying that if you go far enough right, you come around left. If you go far enough left, you come around right. And I really believe that. I believe that systemically we suffer from a lot of these sort of things. And that is an example of how this mass spread of this thing is very much isolated back upon ourselves. I'm very much a part of that system, whether I want to admit it or not, by virtue of making this video, by virtue of being on social media and interacting. There's plenty of things I've said that I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have made that comment. I don't know what that person was going through. Why was I arguing with them? I don't even know them. I'll never see that person in life. And if I do, big deal, I should never have been rude to them. And who the fuck here watching this video has not made some rude ass or stupid comment at some time or told somebody to shut the fuck up? It just happens. And the anonymity of the net provides us with a safe aperture to be able to see this and then react to it. But in real life, we have to hold our own on a lot of things. What's really weird, and I think this is because of what I look like and who I am, and because I rarely, even in this series, I rarely present 100% of who I am. I just don't. There's a reason for that. Because I like to think that even if people recognize who I am and stuff like that, and they have, at shows, I've had people from TikTok come out to my shows, and people that recognize me from my YouTube stuff from prior to this, that have come out to shows and been, oh yeah, you're the artist from Rogue, this sort of thing. Cool. But they also just understand this, which is not necessarily a character, but it is a percentile of who I truly am. And I think that goes for a lot of people online. There are some people that super overshare. And I mean, even from this video, what can you pull from that? You know that I collect lightsabers when I was younger, and that I was cleaning them now, and I cared for them, and they were from my younger days. And you can kind of look around my studio and see things. You can see my computer setup, whatever, right? And you can also probably tell that I love hats and dark clothing, and I have long hair, so maybe I really listen to like heavy metal or something like that, or whatever. Honestly, the real reason I started growing my hair out long was because a lot of people in my family had longer hair. And because, this is going to sound really weird, but one of the first things that I remember seeing when I was a kid was a picture of King Arthur. And I was like, my man looks good with the long hair. That is a king. And I loved it. I just thought that was really cool. And so the whole musketeer look, all that other stuff. And then I got into medieval reenactment. So that's why a lot of that is what it is. And then later when heavy metal came along and death metal and all the other stuff I got into, I was like, oh, okay, I got long hair. But it wasn't because of that. It was far earlier. But most people that know me, that will talk to me, I've gotten people that think, oh yeah, you probably ride a motorcycle and you drink. I don't really do either. I drink on occasion. I've talked about that before. And the only time I ever rode a motorcycle was on the back seat, just kind of holding on for dear life. And it didn't go well. And the one time I rode a motorcycle that somebody was like, no, you can do it. It's just like riding a bike. It was not like riding a bike. They never tell you that when you get on there, like if it's a sizable enough engine, even a smaller engine, that's a lot of heat there in between your legs. You're sweating. If you're wearing any kind of protective gear, you're sweating even more. It's heavy. You got to keep going forward, or remember to put your leg down. Otherwise, you're just like, fuck me. And, all this other bullshit. I've never really been drawn to it. Someday I think I'd like to, but honestly, there's a lot of other stuff I could put my money toward that I think I would get a lot more enjoyment out of. But because of that, because people very much judge by, the cover of a book, they will assume like, well, this is a dude that's down for whatever. I used to have, this is no shit, I would sometimes have these real cool conversations with guys I used to work with at the bar. And I would get all these crazy comments sometimes from them like, man, like my roommate, like there was a dude, okay, this is true. This is completely fucking true. There was a bar across from where I worked at Sharp Bar called Rock Bar. And I used to see this dude like hardcore, like I swear to God, like must have been 2% body fat on this, just huge. I don't know if he was roided up. I don't care. Didn't matter. The guy seemed awesome. Seemed like a nice enough guy. I only ever talked to him like whenever we would take trash down, I'd run across him there. He had a mohawk, and he was one of my guys' roommates. And I remember I had a reputation there, you know, because we'd only ever see each other in our uniforms. So it was a red shirt that said Shark Bar, and then I wore, this is fucking hilarious. It was a moment. If I find a photo, I'll post it up for you guys later. You can't really tell, but I wore a complete armor system. And it's dumb as shit. Like, I don't know if I fucking thought I was Christopher Nolan's Batman or what, but I had armor. A lot of it was like, you know, motocross armor. But I did wear a bulletproof vest or a bullet resistant vest that also had stab proofing on it and stuff, the weave on it. That was very fucking serious. If I worked the front door, I was like, I'm not dying at a bar. But I used to wear a lot of other armor on my legs and stuff, and I just took that shit seriously, and I just didn't want anything to happen to me there, right? But because of that, and because I was actually in decent shape for, like, you know, every night that you work, you're on your feet, you're moving, and there would be an altercation probably every weekend. After a while, you're like on the edge all the time, and you get better at that sort of thing. It's terrible to say that, but it naturally can kind of build up in you, and I did it for 15 years. Well, I would have guys that for some reason they thought, that motherfucker's hard, like he's just the hardest shit in the world. Not knowing, like, you know, earlier I was playing fucking Hamtaro on my phone or something like that, right? Like, I was not that. Like, and the reason why I'm bringing that story up is that dude that had the mohawk that was like super hardcore, had like tattoos of skulls all over him and shit like that. I remember he said, I'm kind of intimidated by your boss. Me, this. And this guy that I worked with was like telling me this. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah. He goes, he doesn't know what you're really like. And he knew me. I mean, for the most part, he knew that I was I'm just a big stupid teddy bear for the most part. But I mean, it was kind of funny because this dude was like, he just looks like the kind of dude that's down for whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not. I mean, if the shit hits the fan, sure, I'm definitely going to defend myself or something. But otherwise, no, God, no, I'm pretty square. I'm pretty square. Cue 1950s. I think that a lot of it for my thing was that, like, on the outside, this is a lot of, you know, self-protection. You know, like, I know that I'm a bigger guy. I know that when people see me, like when they see all the earrings here and stuff like that, I've had people, I can feel it when people stare at me sometimes. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with the side of his head? Oh my God, look at those earrings, you know, or like had friends comment, you're always wearing a bunch of skulls. But at the same time, I also find it funny that, you know, for the most part, if I get along with you, I'm disarmingly nice in person. I try to be, because I also understand there's people that get really nervous around me. It's weird, right? And I'm not an intimidating person. I don't really feel that I am. I don't feel that I'm anything like that. But I know that, like, that whole nice thing, going back to that, which is what the point of this was, is it's something that I found that has worked to my advantage, is that if I'm very honest and very nice to people and very forward about who I am, then it kind of catches them off guard. You know, like, one of the things that, like, I know my favorite thing that would happen, I only had 1 or 2 schools where it didn't go very well, but when I would show up and I was still teaching art to like 1st through 6th grade, it was through a company called Young Rembrandts. And so you're signed up as a teacher and you go to these places. And I remember when I went there, I made it a point that I wouldn't wear a dark shirt. I would wear something light colored, or maybe had like a Disney character or something on it. My favorite was wearing my SpongeBob SquarePants shirt or my Green Ranger shirt. And there were brighter colors and that sort of thing. And I have these, they're not here. Oh, they're over there. But I have these wristbands that my brother gave me for my birthday, I think, when I was 21. And one is Donatello and the other one is Raphael. They're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. One's bright electric green, the other one's black. And I wore those. And I think sometimes the kids would be like, I had kids that, you know, how kids can be. They will straight up ask you, like, what are you about? Like, what is this? What am I looking at here? You know? But I would often tell people, and I have a bunch of pictures up here on this wall. I've shared this before in other videos, where I have a bunch of people that I look up to, and there's literally LeVar Burton and Mr. Rogers, George Lucas, Mitch Hedberg, Jim Henson, and Bill Watterson, the creator of Calvin and Hobbes, and Steve Irwin. And those people mean a lot to me. And I look at how they were. Now, do I consider them nice? No, I consider them very real. I consider them people that understood what it was like to be nice, because in accordance, they were trying to be nice and trying to be accepting and trying to be promotive of good natures within. But it was never, I felt, an artificial niceness. I don't know these people in person, but I would assume that was the case. I've heard different things about George Lucas, of course, but, you know, he still gives off that whole grandfatherly vibe. So anyway, I think that's probably it for tonight. Otherwise, I've really got to get back onto this. As you saw in the last video, I picked up some art supplies, so I was very happy about that. And they seem to be coming out pretty good. Let me grab this page up here real quick. So I got this one completed. I just got the blue line done on it. So that's page 31. It's done on that one. And I just keep getting into the camera. I've got so many more pages. I think I've got about, I hate to say this, I think I've got about 40 more pages to go, according to this, to get this into this volume 1 structure. Sometimes I wonder how new creatives will make it today. So I'm going to end on this. It can be overwhelming at times to think about what I've gone through. But then when you face the fact that whether it's our economy or the lack of worth being placed upon what we make, I'm basing this on a buddy of mine, Paul, just messaged me earlier and was talking about a show down in Florida. Was not going well. I hope he made back money today. It was pretty overwhelming. You know, like, I feel bad in those circumstances because, man, that was my whole last year. I plan on doing kind of an overall case study entry sort of thing, kind of reviewing this last year, what I did with shows and how detrimental it was to my mental health, my finances. You know, my tax lady is going to have a fucking field day with everything I did. Like, it was just both good and bad. And I have a lot of expenses and a lot of losses to report. I'm not even bullshitting that. But I often think to myself, too, that even in that, like, that's another avenue where niceness could be detrimental. I could easily decide, you know, I'm just going to talk about the positives. I'm not going to focus on the negatives when it comes to this. And I want to take this whole thing and just kind of sum it up right now. And maybe the next video will be me talking about those aspects and kind of going down the list of what happened in some of those shows. And then you guys are more than welcome to check out my website at theartisanrogue.com. If you check out the blogs, all this, there's not even anything for this new year yet. I'm working on one there, but I've got 3 more shows from 2022 to still put up on there, and a few other posts that were slated for 2022 that still haven't come out. And in that, you can see kind of where I went with a lot of the efforts to try and make a living and how bad it went in a lot of circumstances. There were some exceptionally good shows, and then there were some that were just like, what in the hell did I do? And why did I put myself through this? You know, such as the avenue of being a sole proprietor and doing business. But I wanted to say that, like, in doing that, I could have taken the effort of saying, well, I'm not going to focus on the negative. I'm going to focus on the positive. That was something that, even with a lot of YouTubers that are out there and other people that will write reviews and stuff, there's been this angle that I've never really appreciated. If I read about a show, great, give me the highlights, but give me those highlights peppered with negatives as well. I want to know what the challenges were. I want to know what happened. Unfortunately, a great amount of people are really nervous to put numbers out there. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about what they did or didn't do. They want to, you know, and I understand that. Not everyone's comfortable. I am uncommonly comfortable with it. And there have been people that are like, no, that's bullshit. You didn't lose that much money. And I block out the necessary information, but I'm like, motherfucker, here's where my bills were. This is what I'm doing and everything. And then I think they get caught off guard a little bit. I've been blocked by people for that. I'm like, I got blocked for being honest, for calling you on your bluff. But the thing is, it's not like I'm sending out my fucking social security number or something like that. I'm just saying, look, I am presenting a very realistic aspect. And to that point, to end on this quickly, I've watched shows start to diminish the returns on investing my time. Many creatives investing their time in these shows that we are continually seeing the prices for tables going up. We are continually seeing travel costs rise. At some point, the percentages don't make sense to go and do these shows. There's a lot at risk here. And we can just go ahead and throw the whole mask thing out the fucking window, because a lot of shows, which I don't care, I'll wear them out. I don't give a shit. I would wear it more normally if it was socially acceptable, just because I don't want to get sick. And I know people can be nasty sometimes. Like, it's just terrible. And if you don't believe me, you've never been in a men's room and seen just how many people do not wash their goddamn hands. So, but with that, I often think to myself, like, how much longer until this busts? And it's across the board. And I'm just talking from the microcosm of nerddom, okay? Whether we're talking about computer parts, whether we're talking about art supplies, I mean, this, which is worth it, right? It's making my job easy, but this was $2.55 a pencil. It's a huge company. Why is it that much? Why am I paying for that? Is there any wonder that I'll often go to recovery sales outlets and look for art supplies, that I'll try and wait for sales? And then the bad part about that is if you wait for sales, they discontinue things, or the companies begin to suffer that should have been taking care of us in the first place. I understand there's nothing altruistic, or, this isn't some Dickensian story that's going to be a rich people going, oh my God, I've been wrong all this time. I've charged way too much for this. No, the lining of their pockets are way too comfortable. And I think that whenever you start to take a look at it, which is ultimately my goal for the whole thing, is to take a look at everything I did, and then looking at this, which this next year, not this 2023, but 2024, when I go back again to doing more shows, I want to take a better look at what was the current price for gas, what is the current price for hotel rooms, and everything like that, which I sort of kind of do, but break it down even more implicatively, and take it along this zone, and do a bell curve, do a spectrum shot of what this means and what this really is like. Even in so much as this, what is this costing me? Because I make no money doing this video. I have no ability to put an ad on this. I have no ability to monetize this aside from getting people to watch it. And watch time is king on YouTube, just like it is on anything. The more time you spend doom scrolling, the better off the company is in general. But my question is, how long can I sustain this without proper income to supplement it? Because if I'm doing this, I'm not necessarily drawing. Now, I do plan on doing some of these later where it's going to show me working on the artwork. It's kind of a time lapse, and I'll do a voiceover or window it over here or something. I do plan on going live on Twitch. There are other avenues, but it blows my mind. And again, whole nother subject, right, to go into about what job expectations are, whether you're a freelance or whether you're a corporate person. Because I can just as easily complain about how badly it goes for trying to get a job in today's modern marketplace for extremely low wages, and them saying, I want somebody right out of college who knows the trends, but I want 15 years of design knowledge. You wanted me to get a fucking copy of Photoshop from when I was like 5? Like, it's just insane. It's just crazy. And even in my lifetime, just to think about the immense amount of information and knowledge that had to happen, that had to occur for us to even get there, right? It's overwhelming. In fact, I want to show you guys something. So hold on just one moment, okay? I just stepped on a lightsaber. That's nothing I ever thought I would say. So what I have here is a fairly mint condition version of my very first version of Photoshop. This is Photoshop 5.5. For those of you that don't know what this is the very first version, as far as I know, that introduced layers. Yeah. And this was the version I had installed. It's got a little bit of icky stuff on here I got to clean off. I think that's from something that fell on, I'm not sure. And but the discs are in great condition, and it's got you have to find a copy of it, but there's my actual activation keys. And I have both the install disc and all this other stuff. It comes with the 5.5 software, Image Ready 2.0, royalty-free stock photographs, third-party plug-in filters, sample textures, and gradients. This is a whole bunch of shit on here, right? And it was powered by QuickTime. Well, the reason I have that artifact is because that is the very first piece of software that I bought for myself at UCM, formerly CMSU, and I believe I got it for the student price of about $125, something like that. And I was really excited because they had just put that out, and when I got the box, it's a huge box, and that was inside of it. And I thought to myself, like, this is great, this is wonderful. Now, back then, this was a circumstance where you'd buy the software, and as long as you had the license key in your original disc, you could do that. And then, of course, pirating software started happening, and people couldn't afford it, prices were going up, and that sort of thing. I understand that. And like, if you're trying to start a business, you're trying to cut corners everywhere you can. That's not always the best way to go about business, but whatever. Now, I have Creative Cloud, and that is a subscription-based aspect. And that's not cheap. There are ways to get discounts. If you're a teacher, if you have other avenues like that, you can get it cheaper, but it's still an expense that goes on and on and on. I did something the other day with a small group, and I don't have the numbers from it. It was on the fly, and I was like, good Lord, this is depressing. If we really took into consideration all of the stuff, right? All of the stuff that's involved, software, electricity for the studio, the computer, everything involved, which is usually itemized on taxes anyway, if you're smart and you're doing this the right way. And you put all that together, travel time, emotional time, lifetime involved in a project, which you never really get back. You don't. You just don't. I've had this discussion with people before. Well, if you're a millionaire, you can get other people to work for you. You still have to designate what's happening, and then you take on other stuff. And can you get more things done? Probably, but it is still not the exact same. And you still had to spend more effort and more money to make this happen. And that's a whole nother discussion. Man, I should be writing these down because this is a lot of really good subject matter to cover. But when we went through this exercise of writing all these things down, I was so in the negative, it was painful. And there was no plan. Like, that was the whole thing. It was, now I have to come up with a plan. Like, how do I rise above that and saunter over into making a fucking career out of this? Because as much as I, even at my best, when I've got good amounts of freelance coming in, there isn't enough there for me to justifiably be able to consistently save and know that that money is going to stay there. There's always the hit of, well, I also am a freelancer, so I don't really have insurance that's affordable. And, there's no way in hell, I don't believe in my lifetime we'll ever see universal healthcare or universal basic income, although both of them would be an amazing thing to have. And I'm not talking a lot. Even if it was just $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 a year, that is pennies compared to what most people need to exist today. You could get by. You could survive on that. And if you lived within your means or whatever, fine. I know I certainly could. That wouldn't be bad at all for me. And it would supplement me and take the stress off of, like, how the fuck am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for my phone bill? I'm trying to do art, but how do I pay for my phone bill? That's the circumstance I have going on really right now. Actually, right now, I'm waiting for payment from a client. Work has been done. I don't know when I'm getting that payment, which is unfortunate. You can put all you want in your contracts, but you really don't know when the fuck that money's coming in. And bills are set up on certain days. And my bill is due Monday, and I've got to be like, well, I'm not paying that until whenever I get paid, which is heartbreaking, right? It's fucked up. But this isn't a circumstance for me to sit here and bitch about my income. What this is something saying that we've played nice for a long time with corporations, with the way that life is. I could excuse and understand us playing nice with each other because really at the end of it, the humanity is what matters. But we're so, and myself especially included, we're so broken into the systems that exist above us and around us that we'll often cry freedom. We'll often cry individualism. But we're all truly united within a spectrum of boundaries and walls and pathways that keep us doing certain things. You want to think out of the box, but you're never allowed to leave the box, which is probably the most terrifying thought about a lot of this. And in my years, talking to people at jobs and stuff and talking about like, well, what about this? Wouldn't you want to do this instead? It's a little unnerving and a little surprising how many people refuse to think outside of that. When I said I was quitting doing graphic design, I meant it. I've got a few more projects that eventually will get shut down, and then I will be out of doing graphic design for maybe one client, and that'll be it. And even then, it's because it's sporadic. And I'll do it for myself. But otherwise, no. I'm going to do illustration, and I'm going to do my books. But there are other things, too, that I can say that have affected me with the whole playing nice aspect. I played nice for a long time, wanting and hoping that eventually a consortium or a group or a company or something would be able to recognize what I could bring to the table. And it didn't often happen that way. And I'm not mad about it. I just realized that there are people in this world that are either lucky enough or maybe even worked hard enough to get into a zone where they are capable of having that. I am not one of them. As much as I would very much want to be part of a consortium, a collection, I know that I have my limitations, and I know that they rarely ever work out for me. And that's fine. I think that it comes down to I have to stop being nice about my own dreams and understand myself truly for who I am and what I want out of life, which is what I would tell anyone else, and probably what I end up telling most of the artists, the young artists that I talk to. Have your expectations. Give yourself high expectations, but understand that even if you fail, it's okay. It's fine, because you can get back up and you can reinvent yourself however you want. I genuinely, a few months ago, was thinking about just stopping doing art. I wasn't going to finish this graphic novel. I was going to move on. I was going to do other things because it is getting hard. It is extremely hard. When you see the rising costs of shows, of travel, of all of these things, what is the point? You just end up thinking, I'm just going to go get a job and be another cog in the wheel. But I don't want that. Even if it just wears me out, I'm going to do everything I can till the bitter end to take care of that. But the realistic part of me also says you have to be prepared to make that movement backwards if necessary. Because if the economy still keeps going down like it has been, and I really say it's been going this way for like the past 40 years, and I don't necessarily blame any of the people that have been in office. There are some that are more guilty than others. They all have some guilt in it. I do adamantly believe that we as consumers are viewed as very expendable. We're just numbers. We're income. And I'm hoping that maybe we can pass that by and we can become something more for one another. There are times on social media, especially, and even in groups that I've talked to, people I've hung out with, you can feel that heartbeat again. You know that there's something there. And it feels like maybe when the housing market and the economy, if it really does crash, we may have to become more self-reliant on ourselves. We may have to rediscover a lot of the things that were in our most recent past, in the last 150 years. How did people survive? What did we do? I'm literally thinking about buying fucking chickens. Do you understand how fucked up that is? I am feeding cats and dogs and cats that got left behind by a stupid-ass neighbor. Adding fucking chickens into that just so I can get eggs. And then I'm going to be emotionally invested in the chickens. But, I also garden. And there's other things that I stopped off because it became, too much of a problem. It was inconvenient for me. And I know I need to get back into that because I need to become more self-sufficient. And I need to believe in myself again. I can't afford to be nice to myself. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys do enjoy these things, even if they seem a little long-winded. So I appreciate those of you that are along here on this journey with me on this daily journal. Thanks a lot, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next video.